So we're now going to move on to our second short paper of the afternoon. So this is Kirstie Preest, who is a librarian and actually a tutor and fellow, librarian, tutor and fellow at Murray Edwards College. So a college library at Cambridge University, I'm guessing, yes. And it's looking at the Wellbeing Programme that they've instigated in their library. So I shall pass over to Kirstie.
Oh, thank you ever so much, Biddy. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, my name's Kirstie and I am the librarian and a tutor and a fellow at Murray Edwards College in Cambridge. And I'm going to talk about our Wellbeing Programme that exists in our library. So if I can have the next slide, please. So what am I going to cover today is looking at the Cambridge context, where our college library fits in with the wider collegiate university, along with our pastoral remit. And I'm also going to talk about the initial beginnings of the Wellbeing Programme and look at how we used ethnographic research to enable me to further develop that programme. I'm also going to cover what's currently offered within our Wellbeing Programme and how we also translated that into the virtual Wellbeing Programme that we offered during COVID. Finally, I'm going to talk about our worries and concerns about how we rebuilt the Wellbeing Programme with the return to in-person services. And then I'm going to finally talk about the impact that the Wellbeing Programme has had on our students. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So Cambridge system is quite a complex and is also known to be a very high pressured environment. The terms are very short. They only last for about 8 weeks at a time, rather than the normal 12 to 13 weeks that exist in quite a lot of universities. So everything is very condensed into a short space of time. The students also attend lectures and practicals that take place in the faculties and departments. But as mentioned, we are a collegiate university, so students actually belong to a college, which is very like their halls of residence and has all of services for them on site. And so quite a lot of students also have supervisions within their colleges. Now, a supervision is a small group session of 2 to 3 students with a college supervisor normally, and that's either an academic who belongs to the college or a PhD kind of student, and they explore further topics in further depth with the students. And the students have to prepare for these by pre-reading, writing essays, or by doing sample questions to go over in the sessions. And because they're weekly, it is quite intense getting hold of resources and stuff in order to do those required readings for supervisions each week. The collegiate system also gives students a lot of pastoral care as well, with each college having a tutor system in place, of which I'm also a tutor as well. And we look after student welfare. When I got my job at Murray Edwards College, that pastoral role is actually written into my job description, because being within the library, it was felt that we are possibly one of the first people who could possibly spot problems and issues being faced by our students, and if they were stressed, worried, anxious, and that we could then pass those on to tutors or to the college nurse. In 2018, the draft education framework within Cambridge started looking at what Cambridge University as a whole needed to do to further enhance the environment to enable students to achieve their academic potential. So that actually dovetails quite nicely with what Fran and Hazel had also mentioned as well about students achieving their potential. One of the 4 key themes within this framework was fostering student wellbeing and ensuring that the collegiate university had accessible and high quality services with a culture that fostered and enhanced the educational and personal wellbeing of all students. From that came the Student Mental Health and Wellbeing Strategy, which is now in its 2nd iteration for 2022 to 25. And also within the last 18 months, on the back of the strategy for student mental health and wellbeing, quite a lot of the colleges, including Murray Edwards, have appointed their first head of wellbeing to coordinate wellbeing within the college. I have the next slide, please. So the library now plays quite a huge part in supporting student wellbeing, but that wasn't always the case. When I started at the college over 13 years ago now, I was told that Easter term or exam term was very tense and that library staff didn't like reminding students not to eat and drink. So I thought of an alternative way around it by deciding to provide a dedicated tea and coffee break at 11 AM every weekday with tea, biscuits, fruit and healthy snacks. And I even purchased travel mugs so that students could take tea and coffee to their desks so that we didn't need to ask them not to drink, so that they were kind of covered and weren't going to spill all over the electrics that are on our desks. Little did I realise at that point that that would be our humble beginnings of our wellbeing programme. The library craft hour came about after my library assistant asked if she could show students how to crochet during one of these tea breaks to alleviate student stress. And after speaking with the team, I decided to introduce crafts at the same time as at that break, once a week on a Wednesday morning. And so we all gave classes essentially on our own hobbies. So one of my staff was very into drawing, I was into cross stitch. And we also liaised with other members of the college and asked if they had any craft skills and incorporated those as well. So we soon had card making, cake decoration and how to make pom-poms. Another one of my more quirky ideas, as you can see from the picture on the right there, is our library nail bar. And that has caused some raised eyebrows. One of our students who used to come regularly to the tea and coffee break was very into nail art. And initially it started as a thought for one of our craft hour sessions. So I asked her what we'd need. And eventually we decided to put it as a standalone activity with guidance of how to create the nail art that students could take a break rather than put it into the craft hour itself. Can I have the next slide, please? So again, quite a lot of our wellbeing ideas came out of my observations and finding alternative ways to support students rather than just saying, no, we couldn't do something. And I didn't realise at the time that that was part of ethnographic research. But in order to see how we were doing and what else we could do, we did decide to run 2 separate ethnographic research projects to look at our services and our pastoral remit and see what else we could do. So we first did a project within the library itself called Love Your Library, which you can see on the screen. And then we also surveyed students in the Dome, which is our refectory, so that we could capture students' views who didn't use the library. So the findings were very, very interesting. and brought out the very different aspects of the student groups. So, for example, the arts and humanities students wanted comfort and homely spaces, things like cushions, blankets, flowers, while the STEM students wanted more functionality, things like scientific calculators, whiteboards, book rests, and portable lights, etc. Can I have the next slide, please? So we then worked to implement those findings and set up cosy areas with bright cushions, blankets, flower arrangements, and we've since added previous craft projects such as painted rocks and stars to kind of add some colour. In 2016, I worked quite closely with our art curator from the Women's Art Collection in a college to hang art on the walls, and that was kind of really to make the space feel more homely. My only caveat at the time was that I wanted art to be as bright and as striking as possible, because we've got quite boring walls, so wanted it to be quite punchy. We also decided to bring the garden to the students as well, and so we liaised with the gardeners to create flower arrangements within the library with flowers from the college gardens. We also provided all of the functional equipment that the STEM students wanted, and we soon found that both things elements were wanted by all the students. And so incorporating both aspects, we created an inclusive space using universal design, which benefits everyone and improved student wellbeing overall. Can I have the next slide, please? So the current wellbeing offering in the library includes wellbeing books with a link to the university's Leganto Wellbeing reading list. And our collection of books includes texts on studying, insomnia, healthy eating, mindfulness, and particular mental health issues as well. To enhance this, we also provide equipment to aid wellbeing. So we have equipment such as light boxes for students who were affected by seasonal disorder. We have coloured overlays, ergonomic supports, and world adapter plugs, which enable students not to feel stressed at the end of the day because the equipment's there that they require. The Wellbeing Programme consists of providing items that give students a break. So, for example, throughout the library, we have jigsaw puzzles, colouring books, the nail bar. We also have yoga mats and blocks for students to borrow. We have a Lego emotion station where students can build what they want to express themselves. We also have a staff versus student Scrabble challenge. I have to say the students always win. And we have other board games such as Monopoly, Dobble, Exploding Kittens, just to name a few. Something else that we do is to also lend students the craft materials from our stock that they can do in their own time, such as knitting needles and wool and mini cross-stitch patterns. And apart from the nail bar, the students can borrow all of these items to take back to their rooms. And in fact, members of the JCR, or the Junior Common Room, which is our student union within college, and the MCR, Middle Combination Room, which is the postgraduate student union, often asked to borrow items for their own events as well, which is brilliant. Can I have the next slide, please? So our craft hour itself is now 3 times a week during Michaelmas and the Lent terms, and we provide it weekly during the exam term, which is Easter term, this term currently. And the crafts covered are ones that can be done as a bite-sized drop-in for 10 to 15 minutes, but students are allowed to stay as long as they wish. And we often find that they do stay longer. We also find that whatever we've thought to do, they will always come up with their own quirky ideas, and which is great too. We also liaise quite a lot with the Junior Common Room, the JCR, as I said, to put on craft hours during Freshers Week. And we normally do rock painting because that's quite a common one. And we also join up with people like the Gardeners and the FemSoc Society in Michaelmas last year to put on winter flower arranging as well. And we still do liaise with quite a lot of the college staff. So this term we've had knitting with a member of tutorial and paper flowers with a member of the events team, as well as the crafts that we offer and provide. Can I have the next slide, please? So yes, we are one of those places that provide yoga, and our assistant librarian qualified as a yoga instructor before deciding to go to library school and become a librarian. So we are very lucky in the fact that we are able to put on yoga for the students with a qualified instructor. And the yoga runs for about 45-minute sessions once a week, and they are based in the long room, although when it's nice we do find that the students quite like to go outside, as the picture there shows. Valerie, our assistant librarian, has now designed classes especially for students and staff with less mobility as well, so incorporating that inclusive nature. And so we now have things like chair yoga, and she's also designed classes for reflective yoga and advanced yoga, more for people who like to do it all the time. Another thing that we do is we've worked with the Gardeners to put on wellbeing walks around the college, which we call Medward's Meanders, and we've also filmed those as well with our head gardener. May I have the next slide, please? So over the years, the wellbeing offering has been very popular with students, and we often heard our students talking about the things that we did when they were touring prospective students around on open day. So when COVID forced our library to shut, we'd just been involved in putting on wellbeing activities for our new offer holders about the day or two beforehand. And the same as everyone else, we suddenly found ourselves having to move everything online with varying success. So we created a Teams channel for the library wellbeing where we could host online tea and coffee and yoga and the crafts. The tea and coffee breaks didn't work very well at all online, and we occasionally found we had one student pop on for a chat, but other than that, no. We provided craft hour, and that required quite a lot of thinking about, not only in how we delivered it online, but also in terms of what we actually chose. And so we had to find items that students could find within their home or within their room. So we did things involving a lot of paper, so things like blind contour drawing, op art, and we even did soap carving, which proved to be a very popular one. And we also made things like friendship bracelets. It had a steady amount of students coming to the sessions. Yoga posed a very interesting challenge online, but we did have quite a lot of take-up every week. The senior library assistant had to be very mindful of ensuring that students could see the positions, and often had to move the camera so that she could show the yoga movements as well as talk people through them. We also made a lot of asynchronous content as well. So Valerie went in to talk about quite a lot, thank you, of the film quite a lot of what we do that we provided online for students. Can I have the next slide, please? So we had a return to in-person, and we were quite concerned that it wouldn't take off. However, COVID worked in our favour, And the reputation was built up straight away, because I think students coming back were very surprised to see everything that we had in place for them. Can I have the next slide, please? So this slide just really shows that the students have always appreciated the library and the wellbeing events that we put on. And we've often had quite a lot of thank yous from the students themselves. And some of the students also comment on Twitter or on Camfessions, it's called, the university site, to say which their libraries they think is great. So it's nice. Our students, as far as we're concerned, really are our best advocates, and we still hear students talking to prospective students about the variety of wellbeing provision that we have. Next slide, please. So here are some links to our social media if people want to have a look and see what we do more in detail. And we're always happy to discuss things with people as well. So thank you very much for listening today. If you want to view more, there is the transcript. I have missed out some of the statistics in terms of time, and just ask if there's any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was really interesting, and I'm feeling very, very sort of jealous, really. I think I'd love to be involved with many of those things. They sound fantastic. I think we should have something like that at where I work as well, not just for the students, but for the staff as well. Anyway, so I'm going to shut up and let Susie just select some questions for you, Kirstie.
Exactly. We'll be selecting because we've got a whole variety of questions, which kind of 3 or 4 minutes doesn't do justice, but maybe Kirstie, you can follow up some of those that we don't get questions to. I think we will pick up with, it sounds amazing, really, really amazing. Does each college work quite independently? Do you share ideas between each colleges? You know, how does that kind of work?
Each college is an independent entity in its own right. However, we do have something called the Cambridge College Libraries Forum that everybody goes to. So we do liaise and collaborate with each other on certain projects. And we do share ideas, but each college does its own thing essentially.
Yeah, fab. Got a kind of practical question. The breakdown sounds a great idea, and it seems that you provided like food and drinks for the students. The person posting has said they've got an issue because they have to use the university's preferred supplier, which makes this kind of initiative quite expensive. Just wondered how you kind of manage that and what you do.
Well, we kind of used to use what is our meals and commons allowance in Cambridge. So the library used to get a certain amount of money that we could go and get tea and coffee for ourselves as staff. So it started off that we would use that and forego our own tea and coffee during the day. But we now just order stuff through our college kitchens. So and then we just get charged an internal charge. So I suppose that we do use therefore their college suppliers, but we have purchased our own stuff via Amazon in the past, or I have been known to go to Spar and buy tea and coffee from there because sometimes it is cheaper. But yeah, no, I can well understand why there's some issues there.
And then I guess the last question I'll pick out is a gender question. Some of the photos you had mainly showed female students. So there's a question whether you're a female college, or if you're not, do you have any boys taking part in your activities?
We are actually a women-only college. However, we do have students who we take students who identify as female. So, and we also have a large number of therefore trans students and non-binary students. So we cater for everybody, and you know, we have had people's boyfriends also taking part in our craft hour sessions in the past if they've been guests of one of our students within the library. So yes, essentially it's accessed by everybody, and if people don't want to join in, then you know, it's all there that it's not compulsory. They can choose whether they wish to or not.
That's brilliant. We do have some other questions, so maybe if you could have a look in the chat and maybe answer some of those, and maybe post your email if you're happy for people to contact, that would be great.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kirstie, and I'll hand back to Biddy now for our next sessions.
Okay.